Good afternoon. It's Saturday, May the 2nd, about 3:30 in the afternoon. Um, I generally don't like to do these things here on Saturdays because nobody's really watching. But I have received a tremendous amount of messages today. Thank you guys for bearing with me. I try to reply to everybody to let you know my daughter was graduating college and family takes precedence with me over everything else. Anyway, people have been asking and asking and asking what is going on with this reappraisal thing. Now, this morning we shared a post up there that kind of gave you an idea on something, on what's going on here. Now, I'm going to call a spade a spade. The government likes to say, well, we're doing the current value update in 2026. So it's not really a reappraisal. That's just a damn play on words. Because if you realize one thing, if you don't realize anything else, the appraisal value of your property just went up. So when you change the value of something, you're redoing it. So reappraisal is what it is. But they want to give you this beautiful term of CVU, current value update, which is referring to the market value update. And what makes it different, and that's the reason I shared you in that first post, in that one picture, is that nobody's really going out to your house to evaluate it. They're just taking the market value and increasing your value. So if there is no value increase to your house, regardless, they think that the market has increased and therefore they can appraise it for more, and therefore, you either will be paying more taxes, your taxes will stay the same, which is highly unlikely. If it's the same, it may be $5 or $10 difference, but staying to the pennies and being near impossible. Or your property value, or your property tax is going to go down. That's it. But what I want to do first here is we have to understand terminology and language when we're dealing with property taxes and how this whole thing goes about. It's very much like the other day when we made a post. I made a video about understanding the difference between a primary and a general election. Education is extremely important, and how words are defined and used in government is very important, and understanding how this thing plays out. So really, we're going to talk about the four main ingredients here with property tax, how property taxes work. The first thing we're going to talk about is appraisals. I mean, obviously at this point in time frame, I'm sure everybody, if they haven't, you'll be getting it shortly. Be patient. It's coming. Everybody's property, you got a new reappraisal. Or your appraised property value has increased. So, and we have to understand this here. This is where the word appraisal comes in. The appraisal is the value of your property. That's the value. So we know right now your value has gone up in accordance to the state. Plain and simple. They've come up in here, and now I'm assuming this. I don't know how the state is really getting involved in any of this here. Now, I've seen some stuff, and I'm certainly not picking at Gary Pope by any means. But he is a property assessor. In my personal opinion, our property assessor needs to be handling what's going on in the county. If they're not allowing our property assessor to do his job, then what on earth do we need a property assessor for and paying a salary? I mean, this is just, to me, is an overstep of the state to come down here and value our property. That should be left to the property assessor. But it is what it is. That's what we're dealing with right now. But let's really get down up in here and take a look at this thing. Appraised value. That is appraisal. That is the value of your property. Plain and simple. So if your appraisal went from $50,000 to $100,000, that's the value of your property. And we have to have an appraised value. So whether you look at appraised, appraisal, it's all the same word. Appraised value. So I'm going to hypothetically throw something out here so people can understand how it works, so I can do the math with you as we go along. I'm going to say Joe Blow's house is appraised at $100,000 with this new reappraisal. So Joe Blow's house is now worth, is the government saying it's worth $100,000. Okay. And then it is the government making that determination, regardless of what any of them tell you. It is the government making that determination. They're the ones who are setting the values. So, Joe Blow's house is now valued at $100,000. Now we need to understand the word assessment or assessed. Same word, it's just a variation of it, but it's the same word. It means the same thing. Assessed values. What we have to look is what the assessment is simple. If you own a home or a farm, you are assessed at 25% of your appraised value. That's how we start calculating up your taxes. That's how the government figures it out. So let's say Joe Blow is his house, it's $100,000. Well, his assessment of that there would be 25%. This is how we figure out how his tax is going to be. Now, if that happened to be Joe's business, let's say his shop in town, well, now he gets hit at 40%. But we're going to go back in for easy math and say that that's his residence. And his assessment to get the assessed value is you need to take his appraised value of the property is $100,000, and we multiply that at 0.25% to get the assessed value. Okay, which is 25% of $100,000 is $25,000. You could divide it by 4 if you wanted to, but we're going to just multiply it by 0.25. So we know that to get the assessment here, we got that there. It's going to be $25,000. Now we got to calculate the taxes. Now what you have to remember is this here. When we calculate taxes, what they do is they do it a set rate per every $100 of assessed value. So we know Joe Blow has a $100,000 property. It's assessed at $25,000. So we need to divide that by 100, because what 100 is 25,000. That 100 is how we figure out we got to multiply that times the tax rate. So if we're taking 25,000 and divide it by 100, we're left with 250. Okay, that's where we are. Now we need to take what the tax rate is. Now the tax rate currently in Henderson County is 1.4578. So $1.4578, $1.46 if you want it to round it up, but that's pretty much what it is. So we take that $250. That's our assessed value, which is 25% of our appraised value. Our assessed value divided by 100, so we can get it, because we need that there. We need to know the taxes is based on the tax rate is multiplied to every $100 of value. So, and I know that may sound confusing, but that they're not going to hit you. They're not going to charge you taxes at $25,000, because if they did, you'd be roughly looking somewhere around about $36,500 in taxes. They do it for every $100 of value, of assessed value. So that's why we divide by 100. So $100,000 appraised value, multiply that times 0.25 to get our assessed value, and that comes to 25,000, and then we divide that by 100 because we need it for every $100 of value. That leaves us with $250, and we multiply that time our current tax rate, 1.4578, leaves us paying taxes of $364.45. That's how taxes are calculated up. Okay, that's how it's done. It's quite a few steps in there, but that is how they calculate up property tax. Now there's some other taxes in here we can look at. Yeah, if you're a business, you have personal property taxes on businesses. If you're in the county, you got to pay a fire tax. Obviously, if you're in the city, you're paying county taxes and city taxes. So, now let me get rid of the big thing that I keep hearing because it's not true. Everybody, I'm going to say Joe Blow's house went up. I'm going to say everybody's house is, I'm just going to make it easy for people to understand. Everybody's houses went up 50%. So last year we collected $10 million in property taxes. I'm just throwing numbers out there. And everybody's appraisals went up, doubled. So that means we should be collecting $20 million this year in property taxes. Not true. That's not true at all. And what happens is we're starting to see some more thing about neutralized stuff. But anyway, you know what? Neutralized tax rates and all this stuff here. What happens is Tennessee law states that we cannot, no government organization can have a windfall of taxes by this reappraisals. So what has to happen here is simple. This $10 million we collected last year, and I'm going to say it doubled up. So, and we're saying our property taxes right now, our property tax rate is 1.46. So what will happen is the state will get this here, and they'll say, okay, well, we got to cut their property tax rate down so that they're still collecting the same amount of money on a whole. Now, I'm not talking about individual people. I'm talking about as a whole. So the government collected $10 million last year. They're going to have to collect $10 million this year. They can't come in here and start collecting $20 million just because everything doubled. That's not how it works. Nobody's pocketing any money, and none of that is true. That is just not true at all. So what happens is, let's say again, our tax rate right now is 1.46. You know, I'm rounding up. So let's take 1.46 and divide that by 2. That'll give us 3, 2. I'm brain farting here, pardon me. Alright, that is 73 cents. So what would happen here is if everything, and this is in a perfect world, it doesn't exist, but if everything doubled, exactly doubled, and our property tax rate right now is 1.46, what would happen is, and that collected us $10 million, the state would come in here, the equalization board, would come back in here and say, okay, well, you guys collected $10 million on a tax rate of 1.46, and everything went up exactly double. So we're going to cut your rate in half. When you double something, if you want to cut it, if you want to get it back to where it was, you just cut it in half. That's how doubling works. So they cut everything in half. It means our tax rate goes to 73 cents. Okay. Well, that means the county is collecting the same amount of overall taxes as they did last year. There's no increase. So they collect the same amount of taxes as they did last year. But here's the thing. We don't know until we have that tax rate that comes down from what it is called an equalized tax rate. When that tax rate comes back down to ensure that the county is collecting the same amount, then we can start calculating up how much people's taxes have gone up or going down. We can't do anything until we have that tax rate. There's nothing you can do. You don't know. You have no clue. Because we have to, the state looks at this as overall collection of taxes for the governing body. And that means all of the property tax. Is whatever it is, That's what they look at, and they take and adjust it so we collect the same thing. Now, after that, can the county come back in here and say, well, we're going to do a property tax increase? Absolutely, they can. Sure, they can. There's nothing that stops them from doing that there other than the votes. So, I'm hoping you guys understand right now, this is how this whole thing works. This is how property taxes are calculated. Don't blow it out of proportion and think that there's something that's going on here that's really not. I don't want you guys to get in a tizzy about stuff. Now, I'm going to say this here, and I'm going to cut to the chase on it. Has our government known about this, and the local government here in the county, in the city? I would hope so. I would hope that the state is communicating that information with the local governments. And if so, why hasn't the local governments been bringing us updates on this stuff here and letting us know that this is coming? Yeah, there's some issues there. And again, I go back into, why is the state meddling in our reappraisal rates when we have a reappraiser here in the county that is elected by the people? This is an overreach by the state, in my personal opinion, but that's my opinion. That's just kind of how I see it. As far as our legislators, our local government, our commissioners, aldermen, mayors, whatever it may be, they need to be up here fighting with the state. Where did you guys come up with this crap? How did you figure out how much our rates are going to be? You know, and I'm going to ask this other question here for you. They raise our rates mighty quick right now, and they're calling it a different name, but it is a reappraisal. The only difference is somebody is not going to our property to look at it. They're just going by whatever things are selling for. Let me ask you this here. You think they're going to take if they did a current value update and all of a sudden the market has dropped, do you think they're going to cut our rates? Do you think they're going to cut our appraisal values? Yeah, I doubt that seriously happens. Number one is they don't want to take and lose that revenue. That's what it boils down to, because they sit there and they bank on that revenue. That's how they budget. So they spend money banking on the fact that they can get the money. So if they come to a point where, let's say, the housing market takes a dip, which we have seen happen before. We've seen it back during the 2008 crisis. You know, I watched it happening when I was in California. When I was stationed in Alameda, I purchased a house out there. I paid $163. 13 months later, when I transferred out, I sold it for $273. The market was going crazy. Everybody was using all these ARMs, adjustable rate mortgages. They'd go in here and get a low payment for 5 years, and right before that maturity would come up, they'd sell the house and go to the next house and do the same thing again, doing a 5-year term. Well, eventually what happened is it bloated the market, and guess what? Everything was overvalued, just like it is here right now in Henderson County and in the state of Tennessee. The government has overvalued property, and it just, we're not seeing as much influx of people. Even in my business in retail, 3 years ago, we had a lot of people coming in from California. And we welcomed them. I mean, they've been great. I mean, and most of them, if you actually talk to them, I know people around here get all upset about somebody from out of state coming in. But I'll tell you what, most of them had left California because of the way government was run, very much like what we're seeing is happening right now in Tennessee. It's happening, and most people don't even pay attention to it. They can't even see it because they're so blinded by, I've got to be associated with the political party, instead of looking at the right thing, what's right in front of you, what's happening. Blame party lines, when gas prices go up, but yet when gas prices go down, another party takes credit. Well, now they're back up, and it's the opposite party, and they're going through the roof. Heck, I mean, we're talking about getting close to setting record highs, and it's tough. I mean, everything is tough, and then on top of that here's everybody's property taxes getting thrown up in limbo, and we don't know whose property is going to go up and whose is going to go down. And when we get in and start looking at these things here, it's major concerns. This is actually impacting you. And one thing I noticed about this county is when you start hitting people in the pocketbook, they get kind of wound up around there. So, maybe it's time for you guys to take and say, hey, you know what? I'm about ready to get wound up again. Before I get off of this here, now that I've tried to give you an explanation of stuff, there was one comment that was made on the post, and I want I definitely wanted to address it. There's quite a few up here, but I want to get in here and address this one that just kind of. This was somebody for the first time commenting up here, and it just kind of hit. Let me find it right quick here. Tammy Cloud. Tammy, welcome. We're glad to have you on the page. And I'm going to tell you right now, we're glad that you comment. That's a great thing, and it matters. Your voice matters. But what Tammy posted was, so it really doesn't matter who you vote for, or if you don't vote at all. No one would be fighting for the taxpayers. That's a pretty profound statement coming from a voter, a citizen. Tammy, I'd like to say this here to you. There are people fighting for you right now. We've been doing this here for a while, and we're going to continue to fight for you. And the best person to fight for you is you. Plain and simple. The taxpayers, if you guys ever stop listening to what the politicians are telling you and start realizing, hey, this is exactly what is going on. I'm tired of it. I'm ready to put a stop to it. Your voice, your vote carries all the weight in this state. It's not a politician. It ain't a politician at all. It ain't a government body. They don't carry any weight. They only carry what you allow them to carry. And so with that there, does it matter if you vote? Absolutely. Because right now our government, our country is founded on government that's put in place by the people. And your vote matters to put the right people in place. If you don't, then you know what, we continue with the same thing that we've gotten. And I'm going to tell you right now, if anybody doesn't want to acknowledge it, stop pulling the Republican card, stop pulling the Democrat card, whatever card it is. Just put it away. Right now, in our county, in our state, in our country, prices are going through the roof. They went through the roof. It didn't matter whether it was Republican or Democrat sitting in office. They're going through the roof. It is very hard, and this has been going on since COVID. Now, regardless of who doesn't matter who the blame is. Both parties, we, the people, are dealing with the same crap from both parties. Neither one of them is fixing our problems and getting us corrected here and trying to take care of us. This is where the problems lie. We need to stop worrying about political affiliation, right party, left party. Who cares about any of that? We need to be focused on trying to correct the issues so that our lives are better. And what happens is, I hear it all the time, and I'm just going to go ahead and address it again. I've probably addressed it 2 or 3 times. I'm going to do it one more time. Yeah, I get people up, all they do on the taxpayers' page is complain. I'm tell you what we do is we bring to light the problems, because everybody else is trying to sweep those problems under the rugs. They're trying to hide these problems because they don't want you to see the problems. They don't want the negativity out there. The problems that they create, they don't want you to know about it. They don't want to address the problems, and that's why the problems get worse and worse and worse. It is compounding constantly, and they never get addressed. And here we are still dealing with issues, and it hasn't changed. We have not changed it. It is still dealing with issues and going after little meaningless things that really isn't going to impact us. So yeah, if people want to sit here and say we talk about the negative stuff, and there's enough people out there patting themselves and their buddies on the back. That's not what we're here to do. What we're here to do is we're here to try to get you the information so you can see the truth behind the curtain, behind what they're hiding from you. And if they would actually have enough common sense to realize, wow, if we actually start saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, we got a problem here. Let's admit to it. And then let's get it fixed. But they won't. They will die by that sword of, I didn't do that. That's not me. It's somebody else. And why this isn't a problem at all. And somebody doesn't know what the heck they're talking about. They're just spewing stuff. You know what? Just stop. Just start doing the right things for the people so we can move forward and correct the problems. You know what? That's when, if you want to see positive stuff, instead of hiding from the problems, acknowledge the problems and start trying to fix them. And then guess what? We'll acknowledge that. And we'll give you a pat on the back because you're actually doing what you're supposed to do in the first place. That's all this here is. And I am hoping that you guys will eventually see this here and understand that this is what's been going on. And that's what we're trying to do to correct this thing here. I'm leaving. June 29th is my official leave date when I'll be heading back to Virginia. And I've heard this so many times in my life. When you leave someplace, try to leave it better than when it was, than when you got here. And that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to help correct the problems that we've got here. But to be able to correct the problems, we got to know what they are, we got to admit to them, and then we got to start working on them. And until we get real people in office who's willing to do that there, we got a problem. And that, Tammy, is the reason that your vote does matter. It plays a major part. Because you got to put the right people in place who is willing to do what it takes, who's willing to buck the system, who's not going to play politics, who's not worried about getting reelected 4 years down the road, who's not worried about lobbyists not putting money into their coffers or whatever it may be, or playing political friends to people because they owe them debts because they helped them get elected. You don't need none of that. You need real people, real problem solvers, real people who are actually going to get out there and work and do what they can to help you out. But that's it. Again, my apologies. I didn't take up you guys on a Saturday. If y'all happen to share this, I'd appreciate it because it gets the word out so people can at least know how it goes. And I guarantee you there's going to be somebody that don't like me in the good old boy system or whatever it may be. Just go, oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. You know what? Go research yourself. You don't have to believe me. Just go research it. I'm trying to give you the information that I research. Research it for yourself. And remember this here. Tell you what? I'm leaving here. I've got nothing to gain by coming up here and doing this here for you. This is me trying to be a good neighbor and a good person and to serve. And that's what I'm trying my best to do. And I will do that there until the day I leave. So, you guys, take it for what it's worth. If you want to keep with the same old thing and expect anything different, then that's what you're going to end up with. So, this is my way of helping you the best that I know how to do it. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in, for sticking out with us here, and for wanting to know and being passionate and concerned about issues that are bothering you. It's and until your ear is to the ground and knowing what's going on, this stuff continues to happen. Absolutely, brother. I love you, Rick. Good fellow, real good fellow. Thank you, Judy. Again, I thank you guys for coming in here. Like I said, if you can, hit the share button. And just regardless of what anybody says, we do not get paid for any of this here. So when you're sharing this here, you're not sharing this here to get us more views so we can make more money, because this is not a monetized page. This page is strictly here to bring you information. Nothing more. That's all we're trying to do with it. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to get out of here because it is Saturday and I'm going to go spend some more time with my family. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. We will be here Tuesday night, probably starting around about 7 to cover the election and getting the results out for you guys. So that's about it. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon, great weekend, and we will see you Tuesday.